Welcome to the third video in our lesson on ordering fractions. Here we're going to be using number lines to help us order fractions. So for the first example, we have to order the fractions in descending order using a number line. Now descending order means greatest to least. Now on this number line, I see it's divided into quarters. I got a half in the middle, and on the left is 1/4, and on the right is 3/4. Now we call these benchmarks. So what we're going to do is compare each of these fractions to the benchmarks on the number line. So for example, when I look at 6/11, I see that 6 is approximately half of 11. So when I'm comparing this to the fractions on the number line, I would say that 6/11 is approximately a half. In particular, it is slightly larger than a half, so I'll place it to the right of a half. Now, whenever we have a numerator that is a lot smaller than the denominator, we can say that that is approximately 0. So I'm going to place that right here on the number line. Now, when you have a numerator and the denominator that are pretty close, like 14/15, then what we say then is that is approximately 1. Since 15/15 is 1, 14/15 is going to be slightly smaller than 1. So I'll put that here. Now I'm going to use the benchmark of a quarter. If I have 9/40 and I find a quarter of that, if I were to divide 40 into 4 equal pieces, that would be 10. Now I don't have 10/40. What I have is 9/40. So I'm going to say that that is approximately a quarter, and put that right here on the number line. So now I can just look at the number line and write the fractions greatest to least. 14/15, 6/11, 9/40, and then 2/17. Now for the next example, we're going to write our fractions in ascending order, meaning least to greatest. Now I don't see any benchmarks on this number line, but when I add up the spaces, I see that it's divided into 12ths. So I'm going to write each fraction over 12. I'm going to create equivalent fractions here. Now I see that all of my numbers are going to be between 2 and 3. So when I look at the first mixed number, 2 3/4, I'm just going to take the fraction part, 3/4, and change that to a denominator of 12. So now, what do you got to multiply 4 by to get 12? That would be 3. So multiplying 3 by 3 and 4 by 3 gives me 9/12. Now 25/12 already has a denominator of 12, but that is an improper fraction. Let's change that to a mixed number. So we start by dividing 25 by 12, and that is 2. Then we multiply 12 and 2 to give us 24. Now to find out how much is left over, we subtract 24 from 25, which is 1. So 2 is the whole number part, 1 is the numerator, so I write it as 2 and 1/12. Next, I have 2 1/3. So let me take 1/3 and write that with a denominator of 12. And I can do that by multiplying by 4. That gives me 4/12. Lastly, I have 17/6, which is another improper fraction. So let's change that to a mixed number. So 17 divided by 6 is 2. Then multiplying 6 and 2 together, I get 12. When I subtract 12 from 17, that gives me 5. So as a mixed number, I can write that as 2 and 5/6. Now my goal is to change each one of them to denominator 12. So what I'm going to have to do now is multiply this by 2. 5/6 times 2 gives me 10/12. So now I can take all of these fractions, all of these mixed numbers, and put them on the number line. So I'm going to mark the middle here to make it a bit easier. So for 2 and 9/12, well, 6 is in the middle. That would be right here. Now I'm not going to write 2 and 9/12, I'm going to write the original number, 2 and 3/4. Next I have 2 and 1/12. That would be right here. Again, writing the original number, the improper fraction, I got 25/12. Next I have 4/12. So that's 2 1/3. And then I have 10/12, which is right here. So it's 17/6. So now I'll write them least to greatest. So now you can proceed to the next video in this lesson.